Egyptian police units on the front line in the recent crackdown against supporters of ousted President Mohamed Morsi. Hundreds of protesters and dozens of policemen were killed in clashes. Security forces have been criticized internationally for their heavy-handed action. Now Egypt's police is launching its own media offensive to show the casualties among its ranks. The doctors at the main police hospital in Cairo say this officer was severely wounded when pro-Morsi protesters beat him. He didn't want to give details of the incident. These are things I don't want to talk about. It's not the time for emotional talk, he says. General Badr Hegazi is one of the doctors in charge. He showed us several policemen wounded in the fighting.
Chest, upper neck, shoulder, gunshot.
Dr. Hegazi claims despite the injuries, the men remain in high spirits. The morale is very high, he says, and all those injured hope to return to the forces as soon as possible. The hospital says it's received dozens of patients like this one. They say many of the injuries, the wounds that these police officers have come from blunt weapons, things like baseball bats, things like batons, but also from knives and from guns as well. Most of the patients, of course, they can save, but many of them have very severe injuries, and there are some people who have died in this hospital. Egypt's police was long considered a brutal, corrupt, and undisciplined organization. But they've seen a surge in popularity since the force took the lead in the crackdown on Morsi supporters. State TV recently aired live footage of the funerals of several policemen killed in clashes. But police are accused of opening fire on protesters, and even some who are on the side of the interim government say Egyptians are turning a blind eye to the alleged abuses.
It's very dangerous in Egypt that the people can accept violence, and they can't imagine that this violence will be applied on them in the future. So maybe the reason for that the people are afraid from Muslim Brotherhood and afraid from terrorism.
Egypt's government calls the crackdown on Morsi supporters a fight against terror. Many Egyptians seem to agree and are willing to support hardline police action, even as people on both sides are killed and wounded. Pleitgen, CNN, Cairo.